Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. Let's talk boxing. This is a bit of a mishmash, this particular video, because it's been recorded at different times through the course of the night. I did the undercard of the Leigh Wood and Mauricio Lara fight, and it was just too long to add on to the review of that particular fight. So I ended up sort of cutting that out, and that's going on to this. So you can check out the post-fight review where we talk about the technical breakdowns of how the fight went, whether Ben Davison was right to stop the fight, how a rematch might look, you know, who would be the favorite in the rematch and stuff like that. So check out that video. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the fight of the year, without a shadow of a doubt, that took place over the course of the night, as Nery managed to outlast Crazy A HOVHANNISYAN. And we'll talk about that fight in a moment. I've also spoken a little bit about Adeleye'S and his victory over Bezus, which occurred the night before last by the time you lot are watching this. But for me, last night. That's what happens when you work nights, right? And also the two fights that were on the undercard of Wood and Lara, which was, of course, DALTON SMITH and also Culley. So let's get started talking about Nery and his fight against AZAT HOVHANNISYAN. You know, Sergio Mora was waxing lyrical about Nery and his boxing abilities last night. I actually have to be honest with you, I thought the defense of both guys left an awful lot to be desired. But what a warrior spirit, what brutality. That was poetic violence, and that is what made this fight so unbelievably explosive. It was everything you could have expected for this particular fight. We knew this would be a fun fight. We knew this had the sort of potential to be a fight of the year candidate, but my goodness me, these two, they just left everything out there in the ring. They threw the kitchen sink at each other. You saw that early in the fight. Nery was landing consistently because Crazy A just doesn't have any head movement. It's as simple as that. But HOVHANNISYAN couldn't miss him either. You know, at points you had Nery coming in behind that sort of Philly shell, but he's standing kind of square on with it. So he's sort of standing there and he's just sort of waiting to be hit. It's really unusual. And he was getting caught particularly with the 2-1 combination, the lead right hand, and then HOVHANNISYAN would step in behind that with the jab. And that combination, that follow-up, would cause him problems. It would freeze him up. But he couldn't miss when he was letting go of his own flurries of shots, Nery. Because like I said, HOVHANNISYAN is not the sort of guy that when he's throwing shots gets his head off the line. He'll stand quite upright and he's whipping in hooks. He's not like a Mauricio Lara type of character who, as he's throwing the hook, he takes his head off the line. And that movement not only helps generate leverage, it also makes you a harder target to land on and to read. And so as the fight started to wear on, I mean, I gave up trying to score it, to be honest with you, because I was just in awe of what I was watching. I just wanted to enjoy the fight. I didn't think it would go the distance, but when it started to get to the latter rounds, I thought to myself, this could actually go the distance. I might have to rewatch this and actually score it. But I got the feeling that Nery was winning the earlier rounds and HOVHANNISYAN started to take over when he started to target the body. You saw that Nery was not enjoying that and his tempo started to slow. You see, one of the areas where there was a real discrepancy between the two was the foot speed. Nery was a lot better with his feet. HOVHANNISYAN at times, obviously this is orthodox southpaw, he wasn't even trying to get his foot on the outside at any point. He was just sort of standing there, high guard, and then just letting go of these flurries of shots. He really just seemed to want to have a tear up. And Nery was able to get the better of it early on. And as he started to slow down, it started to feel as though the momentum had shifted and that body work was really taking its toll. Then all of a sudden, in round 10, he gets dropped. And you think, right, this has changed the course of the fight, the trajectory of the fight. HOVHANNISYAN is in trouble now. He was getting the momentum, but now that's sort of reset it. He's going to need some sort of a stoppage. His corner told him we need the last couple of rounds, but if you get caught with another big shot like that, you have to tie him up. And HOVHANNISYAN started that last round, the 11th round, very, very well. And then you could see, I mean, I say he started it very well. He was out fighting Nery. It really was a fight of just sheer attrition. And as he was outlanding him, he seemed tired and his head was still on that stick. And he got caught at one point and his body sort of sagged. He did this little roll, this sag. And the referee instantly jumped in. For me, it was premature. When you consider how much he was able to take, he was in more trouble at various points of the fight than that. But I guess it was that accumulation of punishment, and because it came after the round where he got knocked down, the ref decided to step in. But listen, if you've not seen this fight, do yourself a favor. Get on DAZN if you've got DAZN. I know a few of you have boycotted it. But for those of you that have got DAZN and you watched the Leigh Wood fight last night, check out Nery HOVHANNISYAN, man. You are not going to regret it. What a terrific fight that was. Let's talk about David Adeleye'S. He fought the day before yesterday, from when you guys get this video, against the previously unbeaten Ukrainian Dmytro Bezus. You know, there's a lot of offensive type stuff that he does that I really like. I spoke after his last fight on Twitter, and I said that I really enjoyed the way he was targeting the body before going to the head. He varies his shots from upstairs to downstairs, and he's very good at freezing you to the body. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people assume that body shots are these big wide hooks around the back of the guard, and those can be the most destructive types of body shots, and he was throwing those. He threw them in the first round. He threw a big right hook to the body before he came upstairs with a left hook to end the fight, right? But he's also very good at engaging the body and to build from there. You see, a lot of times when people come inside, one of the errors they make from up close is to start winging in these big shots, trying to take your head off from up close. And the problem with that is that the opposing fighter can dip in low and the shot will go around the back of his head, or he can pull away and it whizzes past the front of his face, or he can just simply see a shot come in and raise an arm and catch it, block it, and come back with something shorter of his own. So what Adeleye tends to do is engage you with short, straighter shots on the inside just to land something to affect your construct. And this is one of the things that you work on when you're working a heavy bag, for instance. When you're right up close to the heavy bag, you got your forehead on the bag. You're not necessarily swinging these big wide hooks. Sometimes you just see fighters touching with these straight shots. You're almost working as to how am I going to find the specific angles on the inside? What short shots am I going to throw from the inside to ensure that I'm engaging the opponent and affecting his balance? And you might, for instance, land a shot on the solar plexus from close range. Your hand's in a particular position, and rather than load up to land something big, you literally just shoot it from there into the solar plexus, and then you come up with another type of shot. And Adeleye is very good at that. He'll freeze you. He'll catch you, affect your construct by catching you, say, in the chest stroke, collarbone area, and then sets up another bigger shot after that. And that's not really something you see much of at heavyweight. And I really liked the fact that Adeleye is doing a lot more of this sort of stuff. We know he's got fast hands, so there's some good athletic attributes there. He can slip a shot and counter you with it. So there are some good athletic capabilities there. And some of the problems that I felt that he's had in the past have been defensive. And I actually thought he lost the Sokolovsky fight. And I know that most of you seem to have agreed with me on that comment at the time. And so you look at Sokolovsky, and he's a very good journeyman, but he is nonetheless a journeyman. A lot of people since then have tried to write him off. I don't want to write Adeleye off based on that. You know, sometimes you, on your way up, you do get a decision that's a little bit dodgy go your way, or sometimes you might even lose a decision, and you still got a lot to learn. We're not talking about a guy who's had, you know, the deepest amateur pedigree out there. This is not some sort of Olympic gold medalist or anything like that. So he is still learning on the job, and he is still improving. And what I like is the improvement that I'm seeing. A lot of people were saying to me on Twitter when I was praising him, he's never going to become a world champion. Listen, it's a very stacked heavyweight division. I've spoken about this a lot. A lot of people for some reason seem to think the heavyweight division is not stacked, and I believe it's because there isn't the greatest American presence at the top of the game in the heavyweight division, and so it becomes a bit overlooked because there is talent that is very deep. There are good 15, 20 heavyweights out there who are really good fighters. So having to come through all of those guys and winning a world title is not easy, right? You can be a brilliant fighter and not get an opportunity. Look at someone like Frank Sanchez, quality heavyweight, but he's in the Who Needs Him club. So him getting the opportunity is going to be very, very difficult. By the time he gets it, he may be too old. This is the problem that you have sometimes when you've got a very deep division and they're not all with big promoters. So there's no guarantee that any heavyweight will become a heavyweight champion, to be honest with you. And when you look at the heavyweights, how many of them have become champions? 4, 5? And how many of them would you consider to be really elite? 2, 3. Now that doesn't mean that anybody outside of that is no longer worthy of watching. This is the only sport in the world where you can be the 20th best at what you do and people somehow think you're a bum, for instance, right? Well, David Adeleye in a very stacked British heavyweight scene is what, top 7, 8, 9, around that sort of region there. So there's no problem with seeing a guy develop. He's now the WBO European champion. Let's see where they can get him. He may never go above European level. He might get 1 or 2 really good wins at European level and then fall short. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can become a European champion, that would be a brilliant achievement. So for those that are saying he'll never be a world champion, so I'm not sold on him, I'm not saying he will be. He's got some fantastic attributes. Who knows how he'll develop? Look at the way Lee Wood developed, right? He started off at not so great a level, and he's now a solid championship level fighter. So we'll see how it goes with Adeleye. At heavyweight also, skills can sometimes can sort of take a back step compared to some of the lower weight categories where it's more technical, because you've got that equalizing power. So you can have a guy who's brilliant athletically or who has a really superb punch, and maybe he wasn't an elite level amateur and it can carry him to a higher level. So let's see how it plays out with Adeleye, but I'm liking the progression. I'm liking what I'm seeing there from him. He picks his shots very well, great hand speed, nice counter him, some nice punches. I still do have question marks about his defense, although I thought his defense was very good overall against Bezus. Generally speaking though, I think he's better offensively than he is defensively, and we'll see how that plays out of him. But so far I have to say I really enjoyed the last couple of performances, and I'm liking the way he's putting his shots together. Let me know what you thought about that. Now moving on to Dalton Smith and Gary Culley. Dalton Smith won his fight on points, and I've always been big on Dalton Smith's talents. I've spoken about this in the past. I think his father Grant Smith's a terrific trainer, but he's brilliant at doing certain things, and there's other things where I do think he needs work on. When he's moving back and you're coming towards him, in other words, when he's timing you and you're initiating the attacks, he'll take half a step back and he'll look to counter you, and he's very good when he does that. But he's got quite a wide stance and he becomes a little bit flat-footed in those moments, and one of the reasons is that he wants to punish you as you step in. So as you're coming into his wheelhouse, he'll try and slip that initial shot and let go of a big powerful shot, and he seeks to punish you. The problem that he has is that if you bypass that initial shot, because of that wide stance, you can find him. This is not a guy who plays with range on the edge of pocket really that much. So you were seeing that he was getting caught with some left hooks in this particular fight. And when you're up against a guy who's a puncher, that could be a problem. The other area where it could be a problem for Dalton Smith is if you've got a guy who is long and is not looking to basically give you a pocket. He's looking to fight in the way that Wood should have fought really in that last round against Mauricio Lara. If you're forcing Wood to come into you, you're forcing Dalton Smith to come into you and you're taking away the pocket, he's not quite as effective at putting 2s and 3s and 4s together. He's not a combination puncher in that way. I think one of the reasons is that he's always looking for those individual big 1 or 2 shots. And you saw it in one moment in the fight, for instance, where his opponent stepped in, and as he's moved back, he's hit him with 2 right hands. But because he's thrown those 2 right hands and then he squares up and then comes out to reset, in that moment of the reset, he's not in a position to pivot out and go again. So he doesn't put shots together in the way that a great finisher can. And I don't think it's a biomechanical issue. I think it's a tactical issue. I think it's the way he's approaching the fight. Because when his mindset is, let me get on the back foot, take a step back and move around the ring, he can do it. So it's not that it's a balance issue or anything like that. I just think it's a bit of a tactical issue, but it's one that he's going to need to address, in my opinion, in order to become a more sort of a clinical finisher and to be able to control range a little bit more. He doesn't feint as much. I know the commentary team was saying he was, but I don't think he feints as much as he should do. You know, there were moments where his opponent's waiting on him and they're both seeking to counter each other. You've got to create your own openings. Feint to make him try and come with that right hand or that left hook, because you saw that the guy was leaning back onto that right foot and he's trying to create distance between the two, and then he's looking to throw his sweeping left hand, or he's trying to come in with a right hand behind that sort of crouched position. Feint to get him to commit, take half a step back and come back in. And that means being a little bit lighter on your toes essentially and being on that edge of range rather than always being planted and looking to throw big shots. Take a little bit off the shot. You don't have to always look to hurt the guy. As for Gary Culley, listen, he looks like a problem at lightweight, doesn't he? Because he's a 6-foot lightweight, so he's very big at the division, and he seems to carry power in his hands. You know, you got some of these guys like him, like Fundora, you look at their bodies and they don't look like they should be able to have power. You look at them, you think, okay, they're tricky, they're going to be a problem in terms of range, but I should be able to walk through that, right? And I'm not obviously comparing him in any way to Tommy Hearns in terms of ability, but you know how Tommy Hearns had that lanky look about him and you didn't expect him to carry that sort of dynamite? Gary Culley's not quite a puncher like Tommy Hearns, but it's that style of thing. You look at him, you look at Fundora, and you think these guys shouldn't be able to punch, and yet they do. He's good with his distance control. I think the one area that he's got as a potential problem, or maybe 2 areas that he's got as a potential problem, when he does throw his hands, he does look to stab and then step back out, and he did react. So I'm telling you the sort of areas whereby he's addressing the criticism I'm going to come to. There were times where he was poking his jab and then pulling out quickly, and the right hand was then whizzing past his face. So he was aware of the potential threat of throwing a right hand off of his commitment to the jab. But there were also moments where Vera was landing that right hand over the top. In other words, his hands are so long, sometimes he will overreach. His weight will go over that lead foot before he then seeks to pull out. And they're so long, his arms, by the time he resets, there's a moment in between that where you can land something on him. The other thing as well, though it's difficult to get close to him because he is aware of his distance, when you do get inside in that pocket, his hooking technique isn't going to be that tight. It's going to be difficult to hook with a hooker when you are that tall and he's basically on your chest. So it'll be interesting to see how he would cope against guys that are able to change the height dynamic, change the levels. Somebody like Devin Haney, for instance, who you look at someone like Haney, he relies on height and distance and jab. So you look at this and you think, stylistically, he could be a problem for Haney. But one of the things that Haney's got, which is superb, is his ability to change levels. And as he bends low, when he comes up from that, he'll come up with uppercuts. So as a guy changes level and comes low, Tank Davis is another one, changes the level, comes low, and then throws a power shot. When Culley's having to punch downwards and close that range as a result, is he going to be getting caught on the rise of those fighters? And that's something he's going to have to work on essentially as well. So I'd like to see him develop an uppercut. I'd like to see him almost study Fundora a little bit and, you know, try and work on certain areas at mid-range, because at long range he's very good. That's my take on the fights that we saw tonight. Let me know what you think about Ben Davison's decision. Let me know what you think about Mauricio Lara's victory over Lee Wood. Was it inevitable? Do you think the rematch could go the other way? And let me know what you think about Dalton Smith and his development. And of course, if he was to be in with Adeleye'S, how something like that would go. A lot of people have been talking about that fight, even though Sam Maxwell's the one that's lined up next. Don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on the subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.